Bailiffs and lawyers for Precious Aita took over 2 hours to gain access to the Electoral Commission's premises. The court bailiffs were obstructed by security personnel.
Contempt application, the rule is that the person who is a respondent to a contempt application has to be served personally. After trying to serve someone personally 3 times or more, if you are unsuccessful and subsequent service will be impracticable due to undue delay, then your only recourse is to apply to the court for substituted service of that application.
The client, Precious Aita, had filed an injunction against the ongoing limited voter registration.
The reason why she's evading the contempt service is that she knows with the contempt service she will have no excuse when she comes before the court as to why she's continuing. Once you are served with the contempt process, the next step is that the court will jail you if you continue with the very thing that we are seeking to stop you from doing. But we can assure her that we are not deterred. We will go back to the court, we will get hopefully the court order for substituted service, and we will come back. So whatever she does, she can run, but she cannot hide.
The opposition National Democratic Congress has argued that the Electoral Commission's actions could have severe consequences.
The intervention-happy ECOWAS countries, they better act to stop civilian coup d'etats from happening. They shouldn't close their eyes on this flagrant disregard of the principles of democracy and rule of law, only to jump in when somebody overthrows that system.
The limited voter registration ends on October 2.
Now let's come to the discussion table and get this going. Nkwesi, what do you make of this? Is it that the Electoral Commission is supposed to be blamed for this, or is it just a normal practice, as you say?
Thank you. Good morning to you. Good morning to Lawyer Jantua and my colleague Godwin Mahama, and to your viewers, my party national executives, right to the polling station level, my mother, Madam Oboshi Saikofi, and everybody watching us. I think with regards to this matter, it's a very serious matter. Anytime the Electoral Commission comes to perspective, it's a very serious matter we should look at, because the Electoral Commission is one of our state institutions that is the pivot of our democracy. And so anytime we are discussing the Electoral Commission, we should be very circumspect and very, very careful when we are discussing the functions of the Electoral Commission. Well, and you agree with me that the Constitution is what created the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission, like the courts and any other public institution, is a creature of the Constitution. And the Constitution has provided for a framework on how the Electoral Commission should undertake its mandate. The Constitution clearly provides that the Electoral Commission is independent in performing its functions. The Electoral Commission doesn't need to consult the president or more or less any opinion leader before it may conduct its functions. But as part of to deepen its stakeholder consultations, I'm aware they do consider political parties and other stakeholders. However, all what has brought this matter is the limited registration exercise. And Roland, you agree with me that this is just a process that the Electoral Commission is using to register people who have just turned 18 years old. This is not a mass registration for, say, all Ghanaians. This is just for a section of Ghanaians. And so I don't see the reason why it has generated so much tension and so much, let me say, tension within the political system. Because, Roland, this has happened for several times. This is not the first time This is not the first time the Electoral Commission is conducting a limited registration exercise. They've done it for quite some time now. But this particular time, we find ourselves in an unfortunate environment because of our externalities and so many what have you. We've had 2 by-elections within a space of 4 months or 5 months. I mean, the turn of events at the Electoral Commission hasn't been pleasant, like they have always done. And so I think that political parties should allow the Electoral Commission do their work. What I am very concerned about is that the Electoral Commission has not breached any law in conducting this limited registration exercise. And let no political party think that the Electoral Commission can rig elections for anybody. I have heard the NDC say this limited registration it's a mechanism for the Electoral Commission to rig elections for the MPP. I find those comments to be very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate and very sad for our democracy, because just in 2016, we had the former President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, telling Ghanaians that Electoral Commission cannot rig elections for anybody. And so from 2016 and 2023, what has changed? That anybody thinks that the limited registration exercise is a mechanism for the Electoral Commission to rig elections for a political party. Again, with regards to the contempt application, I have read and I have seen in the media that one Ayite Precious has filed. Ayita Precious has filed an application to injunct the Electoral Commission from undertaking the process. I don't know if the Electoral Commission has been served. I don't know for a fact. Roland, do you know for a fact if the Electoral Commission has been served with the injunction application? The injunction application, sorry. Do you know for a fact?
Well, clearly, all attempts to make sure that any other suit is served to the Electoral Commission failed.
No, I'm not talking about the contempt application.
I'm basing my observation on its reluctance to be able to open its doors, to get onto the compound, to be able to get it served.
Right.
And that by inference also means that the posture of the Electoral Commission is to make sure that the commission puts that hindrance there, not to be served.
First and foremost, I don't think that the lawyers for the applicant, Mr. Precious, has filed the injunction application itself on the Electoral Commission. I don't think so.
You mean technically?
Yes, technically, I don't think so, because I have not seen any proof of service or what have you. And service...
But the Electoral Commission is reluctant to avail itself for it to be served.
No, that's not the case. That may not be the case. That may not be the case, because this is not the first time somebody has sued the Electoral Commission. In 2019, during the same exercise, some individuals sued the Electoral Commission and they received the application wholeheartedly.
But in this instance, the Electoral Commission has positioned itself in such a way it is reluctant to open up to be able to be served.
We cannot conclude on that. We cannot conclude that the Electoral Commission is being reluctant.
I'll go back on the video. Perhaps Mr. Botwe has not averted his mind to the video that we just showed. Continue.
So we cannot conclude that the Electoral Commission is being reluctant. Because to say a party is invading service, where is the proof that the party is invading service? The law is clear that when it comes to service, you have to try it 3 times. And where it is impracticable and may cause an undue delay, you might go back to the court for substituted service. And so even you for the party, you should be happy. If somebody is invading service, go back to the court and tell the court that the Electoral Commission is invading service. Now, by the grace of technology, you can serve a party even through WhatsApp. And so what is preventing the applicants from going through the right channel? The procedures are clear. If you feel and you have a legitimate concern that the Electoral Commission is indeed invading service, go through the process. Don't do anything to cast an unnecessary aspersion or slur on the credibility of the Electoral Commission by taking media people to the office of the Electoral Commission just to create a scene as if the Electoral Commission doesn't want to receive your application. I don't think that is the case, and I think it is very unpatriotic for anybody to engage in such acts. Since when the lawyers go to a party with media to effect service?
Well, let me clarify that. Because this is of newsworthiness, the media took it upon itself, and we always do that, to go and take it. So TV3 is not the only entity that went. 3FM is not the only entity. We have Joy. We have others who have also comprehensively reported on this. This is a matter of public interest. Don't you agree?
I agree. But
okay, great.
How did? No, just before I conclude, just let me conclude.
You have concluded.
That's fine.
You have concluded. Mr. Mahaman, do you think the Electoral Commission is, well, quote unquote, hiding behind law to make sure it doesn't get served, as in its evasion?
Roland, let me say a very good morning to your viewers, a very good morning to the people of the Miabra Obum constituency, specifically to my parliamentary candidate-elect, Honorable Isaac Awuku Iyibo, and all my party faithfuls. Roland, before I answer your questions, or your question, there is the need for us to do some clarification.
Which is what?
My brother talks about the fact that the Electoral Commission is an independent body. Roland, you see, you are not an independent body of yourself. You serve the interest of the people. the power of the people so given to the president. And it's based on that the president appointed you. So in good governance, you are serving people. So the interest of the people must be placed as a priority. Who are the people? The political parties that form IPAC represent the people. What have they said to the electoral commissioner? Kodeo, Care Ghana, even some revered chiefs have spoken against the actions and inactions of Jean Mensa. So let us establish the fact that, Roland, you can be independent as the constitution or the law may be stating.
Which is true, the constitution mandates that.
But you are serving people. We pay you with the taxpayers' money. So she must serve us too. He talks about the fact that this is a limited registration. You see, Roland, let us not be using just the words limited registration. Yes, it is true, it is limited registration. But every point in time, to make allocation of where or number of registration centers, you must take into consideration the anticipated numbers. 2019, the electoral commissioner anticipated or projected to register around 750,000 new registrants on the same limited voter registration. She designated 1,500 registration centers to register 750,000. 3 years on, because 2021, 2022, 2023, there was no registration. Now 2023, she is projecting to register 2.8 million Ghanaians. But are now telling the people of Ghana that I will designate only 260 registration centers. Roland, it doesn't make any common sense here. Because you anticipated to register 750, designated 1,500 polling stations. So on a simple mathematics, if you intend to register 2.8 million, then the polling centers must be more than what you did in 2019.
You mean the registration centers?
Centers, that is it. The next point, he talks about the fact that this is not new. I agree this is not new. But every registration comes with a law. Which law governs this year's registration? CI 91.
Yes.
That is what is governing this particular registration. And he talks about the fact that he has not breached any law. I think he's in the law school and must avert his mind to the CI 91. And Roland, let me take you to the CI 91, specifically Regulation 2.2. And I read, in designating a place as a registration center, the commissions shall take into consideration A, the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on the election day. What this regulation tends to achieve is that in trying to register people, the commissioner must take into consideration where on the day of election it can be designated as a polling station for people to queue and vote. Since when did the district offices of the electoral commission became a polling station? So by the provision, regulation 2A of CI 91 indicates clearly that the electoral commissioner has breached this particular law.
Mr. Mahama, last time we spoke to Dr. Bosman Asari, I mean, with all due respect though, he did say that what the norm has been for limited registration is that they don't tend to have many or largely comparable to the general registration, many polling stations or registration centers.
Roland, we have had
of course, you made instance in 2019.
We have had limited registration exercise in this country where they've done it on cluster basis, electoral area basis. And the political parties are not just calling for just a polling station registration centers. We have also opted for even if the polling station centers are too many for them, they can opt for the electoral area system, which we've done before. So for Bosman Asari, or it's not Bosman Asari.
Yeah, Bosman Asari.
For Bosman Asari to make the point that we've not had a system of registering.
He didn't say with it. He said what the norm has been.
What is the norm?
The norm does not mean that it is a constant.
But no, what I'm trying to put across is that if he claims that is the norm, I'm also making the point, and you and I and your viewers are aware that there are instances that we've had limited registrations, that we've done it on electoral area basis. Roland, to move to your question, and I'll make it so brief. Roland, you see, the posture of Jane Mensah is something you and I and as citizens must be worried about. They made themselves available when the initial suit was filed at the court and was served on them. So the question is that, why then are they now invading the contempt suit? It only brings to mind only one thing.
Which is what?
They know very well that the act they are into amount to contempt of court. Because immediately they receive the contempt and they go ahead or they continue to do what they are doing, they can be cited or they can be imprisoned, as you know. So the option is that let us invade the receival of the contempt that is being filed by the applicant. But you see, Roland, if you listen to the video, there is one striking statement that was made. When they got to the electoral commissioner or the electoral commission, they said that they have been given command from above not to allow anybody entry. And let me tell you, the police people there are under the supervision of Dr. Mahmoud Baumia as the chairman of the police council. He is the chairman of the police council. And since when did a public place, because the electoral commission's office is a public place, a bailiff who has an official duty to serve a contempt application to the electoral commission is now being told that order from above, we should not allow a public officer to enter a public premise. I just draw one conclusion.
Which is what?
You see, Roland, the attitude of the government of the day, the MPP government, being in bed with the electoral commission to perpetrate this hardship on the ordinary Ghanaian, our young brothers and sisters who have just turned 18, and looking at the economic hardship, look at where inflation rate is. Look at how things are so hard these days. Transportation fare, lack of jobs, and the only thing the electoral commission with the MPP could do to the citizens that will queue and just to determine who becomes a president in 2025 is to subject these young ones into this hardship. Well, and see, my constituency is Domiabra Obom constituency. I share boundary with Adaiso. I share boundary with Nsawam. And imagine, and we also share the same municipality with Botiano English Amanfrom.
And where is the district office?
The district office is at Weja SCC.
Where?
Weja SCC. And due to this activity, a young child, 18 years, a young child, 19 years, would have to travel from Adaiso to SCC just because he or she wants to acquire a voter ID card. What kind of wickedness is this?
Okay.
The government and the electoral commission must make themselves available to receive this contempt if indeed they know very well that they are acting according to the law. If not, there is no conclusion to draw than to say that they know very well that their act is against the law.
All right. Now, Mr. Jantwa, at the end of the day, we know the Electoral Commission, when the NDC was having its presidential primaries, also did announce publicly or respond to many of the questions whether it will still go ahead with the process or wait for the injunction that had been filed in court. And it looked like it had set a precedent where it says it was going to wait. And even this was just a matter of public record as being recorded in the media. What do you say to this in response to his posture of evading this service?
Good morning to our viewers. Good morning to my fellow panelists. May I make a correction? And the correction is that the police or the military at the, well, let me take the
premises
first,
of the Electoral Commission.
Electoral Commission are not under the supervision of the Vice President. They're under the supervision and take instructions from the IGP. The Vice President is chair of the Police Council. The Police Council are the ones who look at challenges, complaints, and all that of the police service. So let's correct that. Roland, I don't understand though.
Which don't you?
I don't understand what is going on. I don't. First of all, the NDC, the CPP, the APC, the LPG, the GCPP have gone to court about this. 2, a citizen of Ghana is taking the Electoral Commission to court on the same issue. What is the wahala? Is it the independence of the Electoral Commission? That's why we are going through this. Wouldn't it have been a good idea if the Electoral Commission called an IPAC meeting and indicated reasons why they should have this election in their district offices? Because Dr. Bosman has indicated that they have evidence to show why they should or they could have these elections in their district office. Have they been able to tell the political parties why? And if there is a challenge, shouldn't they sit with the political parties and say, this is the challenge we are facing. How do we solve it? Should we cluster? Should we do X? Should we do Y? So that they can all come to a conclusion. Look, I keep saying, elections cause problems. The Electoral Commission can cause problems. Look at in other countries.
How do you assess his current posture now? Its behavior?
I think for me, the posture has got to do with this independence that they have and the fact that they are master upon themselves. But without the Electoral Commission, there are no political parties. And without political parties, there's no Electoral Commission. And this is an activity that involves the entire country. It doesn't involve a certain particular type of grouping. The entire country. So why can't the Electoral Commissioner act as a mother to Ghanaians? Why? When your child does wrong, or you're a teacher in school, you have a headmistress, and children in the class are being unruly, whose responsibility is it to make sure that there's unity? Whose responsibility is it? Isn't it the teacher? So why can't she act that way? What is it about having, and I don't know, maybe you can give me a reason why they want to have it in the district, their district offices. Why should they have it in the district offices when we can see it can disenfranchise certain people? One, it can disenfranchise disabled people. It can disenfranchise the aged. It can disenfranchise those who can't even afford 3 square meals a day to have money to travel to these district offices. Haven't we seen, even in Accra here, in my own constituency, Ayawaso West Wogon, haven't we seen the prospective NDC parliamentary candidate busing people to the district office? Haven't we seen the MP, the MPP MP, busing people to the districts? So what is the stubbornness that the Electoral Commission is expressing that no? And then they come back and tell us that if they now find that there are problems, they go back to the drawing board. Isn't that a waste of money? Can't you look at it and say, okay, if political parties and the country feel this thing could be challenging for us, let's look at it again. You put the laws aside. My friend here, Mr. Mahama, has gone through CI 91. But Article 42 of the Constitution indicates that every citizen of Ghana has the right to vote, has the right and is entitled to vote. Don't you look at that? Doesn't the Electoral Commission see that this can disenfranchise people? Doesn't it see it?
Well, it clearly can.
So why? That is what I don't understand.
What do you think it is the motive?
I don't know what the motive is. And you see, when you start doing this, people now read into a perception that might not be there. Because remember, It is the president who nominates the Electoral Commission, the chair, isn't it?
As well as the other
as well as the other
deputies and then the members.
People start feeding perceptions in there that, hey, yes, she wants to favor this event, especially when the government isn't doing well. Especially when the government isn't doing well. I can bet your bottom city, if this government were doing well, they would come in and tell the Electoral Commission, no, do it this way. But they are not doing well. So the perception now is now floating around that they are trying to rig elections. Please, I beg, it's not too late. Madam Jean Mensah, it's not too late. Put the pride and independence bit aside. Call the political parties. And really, I do not understand why the NDC has left IPAC. I don't understand it. And even if they have, don't you think it is the duty of the Electoral Commission to go to the NDC and say, Jack, you are the biggest opposition party in this country. We cannot do without you. You cannot do without us. Let's settle any differences and let's come back so that we can have a cohesive discussion on elections in this country. But no, it pleases them to stand outside. And that is how the perception is festered. And when really you don't hear any commentary or any comments from the ruling party, then the perception stays. But we do not need that. We are going into an election 2024. And Roland, the election 2024 is going to be one of the most interesting elections in this country. Very interesting, looking at what is happening on the political scene. Looking at the fact that President Akufo-Addo is not going to be there anymore. Looking at the fact that there are challenges within the MPP. Looking at the fact that if the people of Ghana see President Mahama, former President Mahama, and Vice President Bawumia, if he wins, if they see them as established candidates, and they don't want to see established candidates anymore, that the established candidates haven't really brought any good thing to us, it's going to be an interesting election. Very interesting election. With the Alan situation too, in there. And so the Electoral Commission should try its possible best to preach peace. Try its possible best to preach unity. Try its possible best to work with the political parties. Now, you take a writ to the Electoral Commission to serve them. And then security service people say that we have been told not to allow anybody in. Let me ask a question. If somebody comes from the presidency to deliver a letter to the Electoral Commission, would they say the same thing? Will they say the same thing? The courts, isn't it a public institution?
It is.
The presidency, isn't it a public institution?
It is.
Will they say the same thing? You see, we should stop making perceptions into reality. We should stop it. It doesn't help us, it doesn't help anybody. And the bailiff comes to serve a writ, and then he stopped. Why? If the moment the bailiff mentions is from the court, the judiciary is part of the governing system, isn't it? Like Parliament is part and executive is part. Those who are guarding, should say, okay, hang on, let me go and ask for permission and come back and see if you can come in. And the moment the Electoral Commission hears that a court has brought a writ, you should open your doors, because what you feel you're doing is right. In your circumstance, you have nothing to hide, and it's right. So let them bring the writ, and then go defend it. But no, you say nobody should come in. Look, sometimes this kind of indiscipline that we
You mean the indiscipline from the Electoral Commission?
Indiscipline. That, if it was an ordinary man who came, fine, maybe. But a court, a Ghanaian court, has brought a writ, and you said no. You won't allow?
But clearly, the chair of the Electoral Commission has disrespected the courts.
Doesn't she see that? That's why I'm telling you that. It's a public institution. Electoral Commission is also a public institution. So if the courts bring you a writ, you've got to open your door and receive it. And receive it. Because if you have a problem, you will run straight to the courts, won't you? If the Electoral Commission right now has a problem, won't it run to the courts? And the court is serving you. Go and explain yourself in court for everybody to hear. That's why the courts are there. But then you create a certain scenario, a certain perception that you are master upon yourself, and so you won't even take a writ in. It's wrong. It has to stop.
Now, Mr. Botry, at the end of the day, it looks like there seems to be some level of collusion between the ruling party and the Electoral Commission. What do you say to that?
Thank you, Roland. Before I come to that point, I would also want to take an exception to what my colleague Godwin said, that the vice president, because he's the chairman for the police council, is more or less the one preventing the police, who has instructed the police to prevent the bailiffs from serving the Electoral Commission. I find that comment to be very, very infantile and very unfortunate to come from a person like Godwin Mahama. It's something that we shouldn't take serious. And Roland, again, when you look at CI 91 as amended by CI 126, there is no regulation in the said CI that obligates the Electoral Commission to register or conduct the limited registration exercise in the electoral areas. The regulation is clear that the Electoral Commission shall so direct on how they may want to conduct the limited registration exercise. And so, if somebody says that the CI mandates the Electoral Commission that they should by force conduct the limited registration exercise in the electoral areas, that's not true. And again, well, let me make this point categorically that there's not the NPP. We are not defending the Electoral Commission. The NPP is not a PR institution for the EC. The NPP is not in any collusion with the Electoral Commission. What the NPP is for is that we are for a credible register. The NPP is against a register that is bloated, a register that is a register that is made up of fraudulent names, a register that is incapable of conducting a credible election in 2024. That is what the NPP is against. We are not in bed with the Electoral Commission. NPP will stand to gain nothing from being in bed with the Electoral Commission. In any case, in 2019, when the Electoral Commission conducted the limited registration exercise across about 2,000 electoral areas or registration centers, the NPP won the election with over 500,000 votes margin. And so if somebody says that the NPP is in bed with the Electoral Commission because the Electoral Commission wants to rig elections for the NPP, it is an unfortunate and an untrue statement without any proof. Again, Roland, it is important that we posit that the NPP's position on this matter is that all Ghanaians who are qualified and eligible to register must be given the access to register in order for them to exercise their civic rights to vote. That is the position of the NPP. However, like Dr. Jantua said, if the NDC has any preposition, they should go to IPAC. Since 2019, somewhere around 2019, the NDC has failed to attend IPAC. If you fail to attend IPAC, how do you expect the Electoral Commission to accept your recommendations and your opinions about their performance or how they perform their duties?
So you're saying that because they are not IPAC,
they should go to IPAC. They
can't comment on the electoral
process. They should humble themselves.
Because at this same IPAC meeting, Mr. Botry, it was indicated from my sources from the other political parties, including the CPP, the PNC, etc., that it was not agreed by way of the modalities that the Electoral Commission is using to deploy for this limited registration exercise. All they are seeing is this current deployment and the current way of undertaking this exercise. That's an affront to what had been agreed before IPAC. It clearly also indicates that the Electoral Commission really doesn't respect IPAC in a way, by way of the decisions that are agreed on.
We cannot conclude by saying that the Electoral Commission doesn't
because
respect
it looks
IPAC.
to be only the NPP is happy.
No, we are not happy. Nobody is saying, have you seen any press release from NPP or our General Secretary commending the Electoral Commission that we are happy? Have I commended the Electoral Commission?
You're here affirming.
I'm not affirming. I have just told you the position of the NPP that we are in for a credible register. The position of the NPP is that all eligible registers should be given the access to register. What the NPP is against is that we do not want a register which has been bloated, a register which cannot deliver us a credible election. That is what the MPPs are.
Mr. Butcher, let me...
Roland, let me just make this point.
Let me
make this point before you come in. Respectfully.
You added to my question. You made an earlier allusion, of course, referencing the CI 91.
Right.
So you go to section 2, it does indicate, and you're saying it's not obligatory.
Yeah.
All right. It doesn't indicate that the exercise should be undertaken in electoral areas. But at the same time, in the use of the CI, and we go to section 2.1 and A, the Electoral Commission shall designate, shall, you're a student of law, right? Shall. Shall means what?
Please conclude. Read the entire provision. Respectfully.
Respectfully.
No, I want you to.
Answer.
No, I'm not saying I'll not answer. I'm not saying I'll not answer. No,
so shall. I wanted to get because you are the student.
No, read the provision in its entirety.
Okay.
Respectfully.
So shall designate registration centers for the purpose of registering voters.
What does
and
the,
B, please. And B, may designate any place it considers appropriate as a registration center.
And
so
B,
that is
may
yes.
Designate.
So it's not obligatory.
Of course.
In terms of the designation.
So the A talks about the fact that the Electoral
shall
Commission
designate registration center for the purpose of registration.
Now the question is, has the Electoral Commission...
Let me finish. Now, in 2.2a, it says, in designating a place as a registration center, Mr. Butcher, are you listening?
I'm listening.
The Commission shall take into consideration, A, the suitability of the place for use as a polling station on election day. Okay. And the accessibility of the place to prospective applicants for registration. Would you say, based on the provisions we've already indicated above, that the place that has been designated for use as polling station day are being used by the Electoral Commission for this registration exercise too? That the place is accessible to prospective applicants for registration. And if you do a demographic analysis of the prospective applicant, we have those who are physically challenged, those who, by way of their income levels, may not be able to afford transportation to places of registration that are long distance, etc.
Thank you, Roland. Roland, you see, since 2012, in 2012, when we had the limited registration exercise, the Electoral Commission designated different and several registration centers, including their district offices. The district offices have always been included in the designated places for registration. And so this is not the first time the Electoral Commission is conducting this exercise in their district offices. They have always been part of the designated, and with the provision you just read, nowhere in the law says that the electoral areas or polling station or polling centers shall be the place designated for registration. The law is only saying that the place should be convenient for registration. You cannot go and look for any small corner to say you are doing a registration exercise. That is what the law is trying to talk about, that if we should conduct the exercise at a place where we think voting can be held. And so that does not put the Electoral Commission in a fix to conduct the exercise at the various electoral areas. And Roland, you see, since 2016 or since 2017, anytime the NDC have the opportunity to comment about electoral matters, they use the opportunity to bastardize the Electoral Commission. It seems to me that the NDC, they've not recovered from their 2016 loss yet. And that is why at any given opportunity, instead of expressing their concerns legitimately, they rather tend to use the opportunity to bastardize the Electoral Commission, to dent the credibility of the Electoral Commission, and to cast unnecessary aspersions and insinuations against the Electoral Commission. And I find it to be very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. Because even in 2016, as I learned, even in 2016, you find the flag bearer of the NDC, who was then President Mahama, tell Ghanaians that the Electoral Commission cannot rig elections for anybody. And in 2023, the song they've been singing since 2017 is that EC is rigging elections for MPP, EC is rigging elections for M, yet without any proof. It is very bizarre and very unfortunate for the NDC to maintain that position.
Well, Mr. Mahama, at the end of the day, we know that in 2020, in the name of COVID, borders were closed for the registration exercise. It also means that a number of Ghanaians did not have access to the register and subsequently could not vote in the election. And now we're told that with only a center, you have to travel far and wide and to get to this center. Yesterday, for example, Our correspondent in the northern region did experience a high turnout and then a slow process in the pace of the registration process. That should be a concern to everybody, right?
Roland, it's a concern to the NDC. It's only the MPP who are not much interested in the issues you have raised. Roland, they said action, they say, speaks louder than words. Our credibility is very important to us as we sit on national television. You do not need to openly say, I support the actions of the Electoral Commission before one can draw the conclusion that the MPP are in bed with the Electoral Commission. Why? From the beginning of his submission,
he says they are not in bed.
I'm coming. From the beginning of his submission to the time he ended, there is all indication that he is in support.
How?
That's untrue.
I'm saying that from the beginning of his conversation to the end, all allusion has been pointed to the fact that they are in support of the act of the Electoral Commission. Why? The NDC has stated their position. The other smaller parties have equally stated their position. You ask yourself, why has the MPP not officially stated their position? Silence they means consent. My next point, Roland, on this issue is on the fact that lawyer Jantua and my brother raised the point that we must go to IPAC. Lawyer Jantua, what is the effect of a political party attending IPAC when the very reason why the IPAC was established is not being adhered to?
You got to
The political parties, in the absence of the NDC, went to IPAC. J. Mensa came to inform them of how and the modalities they are going to use in this limited registration. They spoke vehemently against the proposal, including the MPP, just for them to realize in less than 24 hours that the very thing that they spoke against is the same thing she is doing. So this comes to vindicate the NDC of the nature and posture of J. Mensa. So what you and I, Lawyer Jantua, and well-meaning Ghanaians should be doing is just to talk to the Electoral Commissioner to continue the very principle that her predecessors has built before she took over. Not for her to turn IPAC into just an information center. She just sits at the comfort of her home, think about whatever she wants to do, and just come to inform them.
She turns IPAC into what?
An information center. Where she also she only goes there to give the information.
But Mr. Mahama,
you don't have a say.
Is it not important? I mean,
Roland,
all the advocacy and the dialogue aside, is it not important that the NDC also gets represented at IPAC?
Roland, I'll go there, don't worry.
Okay.
Let me also make the point that, you see, when you read provisions of statute and constitution, you don't read it in isolation. You read it in its entirety. You read Regulation 2.1, which indicates that the Electoral Commission shall designate a place for registration. The two then instruct the Electoral Commission to consider polling stations. Then my brother sits here to tell me that it is not mandatory. They have not been told specifically where to designate as a polling station for registration. Why? This is black and white. You don't need a child in your tummy. You don't need a professor. You don't need a doctor to explain this to you.
He said that has not been the norm.
I'm saying that, but we have answered that already. I have told you that the rationale behind this whole thing, per Article 45, is to expand the voter register. Ask yourself, in expanding the voter register, limiting the registration to district offices, compared to doing it at the polling station, we have 38,000 polling stations. Assuming every day they are even registering 2 registrants. Each day they register 76,000. Yes or no? That's what they'll be registering every day. So at the end, we'll be able to achieve Article 45 of the Constitution. Do you get me? But to say that limiting it to the district office is the best, I just can't understand. So it is clear, stated in their regulation, and nobody drafted this regulation for them. They did it themselves, that they must consider place where on the day of election can be used as a polling station. We have never used the district office as a polling station, and that is not acceptable. My last point,
The word
Roland.
shall is may. They may consider.
Roland.
May, not shall.
Please go ahead.
Roland,
Yeah.
let me make this point also that you see
Please conclude for
the
me.
kind of system we operate in Ghana is an executive presidency or governance system. A president appoints an electoral commissioner. A president appoints the IGP. In the wisdom of the framers of the constitution and directed by the president, appoint the vice president to chair a council. It is not by default. They have a responsibility on them to make sure that when people are designated to places to serve the interests of this country, they do it diligently. Why? When they tell you order from above, Lord Jantua and my other brother, you see, imagine the president or the vice president putting up a call to the electoral commissioner to tell the electoral commissioner, open the doors for the bailiff to serve the needed writ to you. Are you telling me they won't obey? They have no option than to obey. I am drawing the conclusion that it is because of the actions of the government of the day that has emboldened the woman to do what she is doing.
Not true.
As we speak, the electoral commission has turned into an MPP headquarters.
Not true. Not true.
Appointing
Roland, this cannot be
MPP.
true.
Oh, but it's a fact.
Roland, this cannot be true.
We know
It's not
The
a fact.
electoral
Is
is
that-
not a fact. This
The,
is
the
not
electoral
true.
commission
Let me-
is
don't worry.
the office is not the headquarters of the
I said
NPP.
it
Roland, you
has
should
turned
retract
into.
that
Roland,
statement.
let me tell you one thing. Bossman Asari used to be a patron
That's
for
not
an
true.
MPP
That's
student front.
Which patron? Of which of the
Just
student
gone.
front?
Where's your
Legon.
proof? Where's your proof?
Legon.
Where's your proof?
I said
Where is
he
your
was
proof?
a patron.
Where is your
The
proof?
current appointment of an
Where
MPP
is your
communicator,
proof? Where
Dr.
is your
Piahin.
proof?
Dr. Piahin.
Where is your
Is he
proof?
not an MPP person?
Where is your proof?
So Roland,
Roland,
I
he
know
has
what
no
I'm talking
proof.
about.
This is an
You
unfounded
when I
allegation. He
when I
has no
speak,
proof.
when I speak, I know what I'm talking about.
Where's your proof?
They have appointed MPP known persons
It's not
into the
true.
commission.
It's not
so
true.
they are
It's
there
not true.
to do the bid of the party. But I draw conclusion by saying that if you are a Ghanaian, 18 years and above, Roland, irrespective of the hardship the government has plunged you into, it is your civic responsibility to acquire a voter card so that going into 2025, we can exercise our constitutional duty to vote this government out because they have nothing good to offer this country. We are at where we are because they have exhibited their total incompetence. That is why today, look at where inflation rate is, exchange rate. The man who was all over tertiary institution having lectures on economy today has decided to go mute on economy, talking about digitization. It tells you clearly this is a failed government. Roland.
Well, what admonition, beyond some of the perhaps incisive corrections you want to undertake here, what admonitions would you give the Electoral Commission going forward on this subject as we end this?
I've already told you what they should do, Roland.
Which is what?
They should open up and sit with the political parties to get solutions to the challenges. And let me tell my brother, Mr. Mahama, you also represent citizens of this country. You shouldn't take your party as your own. You are there representing citizens, and those you represent would want to see you at IPAC. The CPP will want to see you at IPAC. All those other political parties that took the Electoral Commission to the Supreme Court would want to see you at IPAC. When you are there, we can be much stronger and put pressure because they're the largest political party. But let me ask, accessibility. Where the Electoral Commission has chosen their district offices, is it accessible?
Their own CI.
Yeah. Is it accessible? Is it accessible to Ghanaians? Let me give you a definition of accessibility. My good friend Yali sent to me. He says accessibility in law refers to a site, facility, work environment, service, or program that is easy to approach, enter, operate, participate in, and or use safely and with dignity by a person with disability? Is it accessible for the disabled? And accessibility doesn't mean, oh, there's a door there so you can walk through. Is it easy to get to? The suitability that is in there also refers to, is it easy to travel from A to B to get there? Is it? And if for nothing at all, political parties should be one on this, including the MPP. Including the MPP. Because it disenfranchises some of our people. It does. And the MPP can't tell me that it doesn't. The MPP can't tell me, the aged, it wouldn't. When you look at the distances, island communities, some have to cross water. Is it safe? Is it safe? Some have to cross long distances to get to the district office. So I'm asking you.
That's not accessibility.
Next election, will they propose to hold it in district offices? Will they not go to the polling stations in all these areas? Won't they? So what is stopping? Why? Because it's limited? Whether it's limited, whether it's plenty, whether it's what, your responsibility is to go and register. Go and register, or tell us, we don't have the wherewithal to go to these areas now. That's why we have decided to have it in the district offices. But communicate that to the political parties, sit. So why did we have that IPAC meeting to discuss it? And when we had that IPAC meeting to discuss it, you agreed with us. What turned? What changed? What changed? And you see, the challenge we have, and tell me, I don't know any country, where election results have been announced more than 3 times. I don't know any country.
Only in Ghana.
So far as I know. Maybe you can advise me. And that has created perception that the Electoral Commission is in bed with the MPP. Look, you've got to be clear. When the past Electoral Commissioner, what's his name? No, not Shalusei. The one,
Dr. Afarijan.
Dr. Afarijan. Look, every chair of the Electoral Commission, every chair that is nominated, there is suspicion. Every chair. Charlotte Osei, this one we just mentioned, what's his name again? No. Afarijan. When he was put in by President Rawlings, there was perception that they are going to play to the dictates of the party. It is up to you, the Electoral Commission, to prove to the people that you are not in that way inclined. In the end, didn't we clap for Afarijan? Haven't we now said Afarijan is one of the best we had? Charlotte say, didn't we say that, oh, she was good? So why doesn't this Electoral Commissioner want to do that? And make sure that at least, if for nothing at all, there's peace. 2008, when General Mosquito wore his battle
war smoke,
we were on the brink.
And they marched to the Electoral Commission.
We were on the brink. And that shows you.
You think we're getting there?
Well, at the present moment, Ghanaians don't want basa-basa. But if we don't take care and we don't do things right, especially now that we haven't even started the elections, the way this thing might end might not bode as well. So all of us, including the Electoral Commission, should preach unity. The president, in these his last days, he should bring Ghanaians together. He should bring Ghanaians together. When he sees things that aren't right, he should speak about it and bring Ghanaians together. We are going into an election.